I'm gonna try and re record this because I recorded a very, very depressing rant for about 30 minutes. And I don't know if I want to release that, so you're my backup. If you're hearing this, it means that this went a lot better than the last one. Because here's the thing. I'm giving you a voice note because I'm not in a good mood. My voice notes come when I don't want to be on camera, when I don't have the time to research or write a script or perform a script. So, this is a way more casual way for me to just chat to you and just get across how I'm feeling, get across what's going on, what thoughts are plaguing me, and what thoughts are lifting me. And in the last voice note, I talked a lot about how mostly these days I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed in the people I know. And I think I've always been disappointed in the people I know. But I wanted to do something slightly more positive. So I may talk about how annoyed I am these days, but ultimately I am going to come back to something that is very joyful. So permit me for a moment, if you will, a slight little rant, just so I can get this off my chest. I've been in a bad way the past few days for a very silly reason. I've been kind of emotionally unregulated for a lack of sleep. And the reason I have not been sleeping is because we adopted two little kittens. This is Nutmeg and Muscad, and they're wonderful. They're settling in well, but every single night they wake up and they start screaming and scratching and shouting and running all around the house. And so they're keeping us awake, needless to say. So I have not been sleeping well, which has not done a lot of good for my mood. And I am what Dr. Gabor Mate might say, a very sensitive individual. I always have been. A lot of people who end up in the arts tend to be quite sensitive people by nature. But also, a lot of folks who end up with an ADHD brain tend to be sensitive folks who go through a lot of stress at an early age. So, one of those ideas and symptoms of ADHD is that emotional regulation is not our strong point. It is somewhat easy to set me off kilter. And when I am unbalanced, I retreat into myself and I get moody, I get stubborn, I rebel against any form of responsibility. And I can be a little difficult to work with sometimes when I get like that. So that's the mood I've been in the past few days. And that, it leads me to catastrophize. It leads me to pretty negative spirals of thought. I wrote in my journal the other day that I was going to die having contributed nothing. Which, hey, I mean, it could be true, but it is still maybe a slight exaggeration. But there's an upside to all this downside. In these darker moments, whatever I start focusing on is leading me to where my actual anxieties are and where my actual work needs to go. And there's something I realized, something that I've been doing my entire life. My entire life I have been doing this. And I'm not sure why. I'm not sure why I ended up this way. But I've got an ideal. I have a dream. I have a dream life. I have ambitions. I have things I want to do. I have things I want to see. And big part of that is being surrounded by people who are also ambitious, people who also want to change the world, who also want to create beautiful things. And I've never really been surrounded by that. There were moments in my life that I kind of was, and I was pretty happy with it. I thrived in those circumstances. But in general, for the majority of my life, if not all of it, I've been surrounded by people who talk about what they want to do. This idea that I've been surrounded by musicians who don't want to play music, if that makes sense to you. And that's pretty frustrating when you want to make something big, because you cannot make something big by yourself. You cannot sustain the ambition and idealism that I have by yourself. This is why I retreat so heavily into heroes of mine, and I go back to Jim Henson or Miyazaki, because they keep me company. They make me feel like I'm not the only person who's trying to do something really big. And I get it. Look, I get it. I get why the people around me might not be as ambitious or as idealistic or as focused. To a degree, there's a lot of privilege in being able to do that. Most of the people I know are struggling to survive, let alone thrive, let alone have the time to make something. Most of the people I know don't come from a place where there's an industry built around growing and developing talent. A lot of us had to make ourselves from scratch. And no matter what any famous artist will tell you, they did not make themselves from scratch. They are selling you a lie. I mean, all of pop music is just this weirdly constructed lie that has been both maddening and, I don't know, it's been impressive. I've been very impressed by the storytelling that the music industry is able to do. Like, we sell artists, pop artists, in a very narrow way. And it's only after the fact that we criticize how they became famous. Like, it's only after the fact that we criticize that Taylor Swift's dad basically bought her career, that the only reason that she could even have a chance at becoming a musician is because they up and moved their entire life because they could afford to do so. As so many famous artists, whether they choose to or it's a wider choice that the machine behind them is choosing, they choose to obscure a lot of the uncomfortable truths that underlie a lot of our systems. That if you are wealthy and privileged, you will get the chance to become wealthy and privileged. And if you are not, nobody will ever know, because we don't pay attention to those people. And that's not a very motivating story to tell somebody. So when I think of my friends who are not making art, who are not creating things, I have to sympathize with them. Because I know how much they want it, but I know how inaccessible it is for them, even if they don't know it themselves. And that's kind of the tragedy of a lot of our generation. We're performers on social media, we're performers in the artistic sense. All of our dreams are to become artists and creators. And never before have we had such access, and never before has it felt so close. But it is just as far away as it ever has been. And we don't know that. So, of course, every artist I know is full of mental illness and is full of stress and is holding on by a thread. Of course they are. How could they not be? But that doesn't help me. That doesn't help what I need. And I need to be surrounded by creatives. I need to be surrounded by ambitious people. I need to be surrounded by people who actually do things. And I've spent my life trying to change the people around me, trying to make a space for people around me to do things, trying to facilitate the creation of other people just so that I have somebody to make something with or next to, and it has never worked. I've got about 3 or 4 songs that I would love to finish writing, but the people I'm writing it with, they just don't have time. They just forget about it. And that fucking sucks, and it exhausts me. I am so tired of coaching a friend through difficult times, trying to guide them back to this dream that they have, only for them to turn around and do absolutely nothing about it. I'm tired of that. And so, instead of trying to build a group of people who are makers and doers, I should be trying to find them. Because people out there do exist. They are out there. I just haven't found them yet. I haven't gone to them. For whatever reason, I don't know. But I think it's time for me to stop trying to change the people around me and start trying to just find new people. Which kind of sucks. But that's where my darker thoughts have led me somewhat these days. But I promised you not just dark thoughts. I promised you more joyful, happy things. Because look, I am well aware that depression does not sell. I'm aware that this kind of morose, waxing and waning philosophical is kind of self-indulgent. Let's be honest. This is not for you, this is for me. And I'm fine with that because I do need to do things for me a bit more. But there is joy. There is a lot of joy. I recently bought an art book from Dana Terrace. She is the creator of The Owl House, if you've seen that. And she's also now the creator of a new show called Knights of Guinevere. And only the pilot has come out, but the show has been greenlit. And with the green lighting of the show, they did release a limited edition hardback art book. And the art in that world is so inspiring, and it is so me-coded, if you will. I'm very, very intrigued to see what they put into a book like that. Because that's really what I'd love to do. I'd love to make a world. I want to make a world so badly. And it doesn't have to be a coherent, fleshed out world. It just has to be something that titillates, that is fantastical, that is magical and lets you get lost in and lets you imagine within. Like, I know J.K. Rowling's a piece of shit, but my God, that world of Harry Potter is magical, isn't it? Something you can just jump into and play in. And there's so many worlds like that. Adventure Time is one of those worlds. And yes, of course, Knights of Guinevere is set up to be one of those worlds. So I'm very excited for that. I've started keeping a notebook, kind of like a scrapbook. I've been describing it as if somebody was to take an encyclopedia from a strange alien world or an alternative timeline, and they were to tear it up. If you were to find pieces of that scrapbook and assemble them, what kind of world would you imagine? What kind of world would you picture? That's what I'm trying to do with this little new notebook of mine. And it's fun because I can sit in a cafe for 10 minutes. I can write out a paragraph of text, an idea, a concept. I can do a little drawing that displays a scene from that world. It's really nice. I can flesh out a world piece by piece without needing to worry about consistency or chronology. It's good. It's something I would recommend to everybody because, again, like I say, everybody needs to express, everybody needs to make things. We all need to have a hand in shaping our view of the world, and that comes with creation and making. The wonderful Bob Ross said that a lot about drawing and painting. He said that the act of painting is learning how to see again. And I don't imagine he came up with that concept. That sounds like a very old concept, but it was from him that I learned that concept. Now when I look at a shadow across my wall. I don't think about drawing the shadow. I imagine the highlight around the shadow. I imagine the negative space in a drawing more often. I see the layers in a street scene. It's fascinating. The more and more I learn how to draw and paint, how I see the world differently. How when I look at a leaf and how the light passes through it, I don't see two different kinds of green. I see two different concentrations of green. And it's nice to see the world like that. When I hear music, I hear the rhythms, I hear the melodies in a way that I never could if I didn't make it. There's an appreciation in craft that I think everybody needs. So, that's your little happiness for this video. That's your little spark of joy. That is all I could muster in a time when I am just not in the mood. I'm just not in the mood. And I'm becoming more and more comfortable saying that. I've spent so much of my time over the years trying to craft myself, trying to craft a public image, trying to sell myself to you. And I never feel more hollow than the moment after I've tried to sell something. Myself included, of course. I was at a music conference years ago in Belfast, and I was in this mindset that I had the next big thing. So I went around that conference and I did not listen to a single person. I did not learn a single person's name. I did not make a single friend. I just sold myself. I just tried to tell everybody, brute force, how great I was, what I was doing, and how exciting it was. And of course nobody cared. Nobody cared. Because that's not how you get people to care. And how you get people to care, that is something that I will maybe never understand. Because if I could, I would. I would have gotten people to care about this a hell of a lot long ago. A hell of a lot longer ago. So instead, I'm gonna retreat from that world. I'm gonna stop trying to sell myself. I'm gonna stop trying to optimize and maximize and synergize and my new tactic is to try and make music and art so exciting and fun that people will want to share it and sell it and celebrate it. Because I can't do everything by myself. I have a wonderful producer who helps me make great music. And without him, I would not be able to make the music. That's also going to be true for my career. I'm going to need people around me that can help make my career, because I cannot do it alone. I cannot sell myself, because nobody wants to listen to music from a salesman. They just don't. Art is weird like that. Commercial art is weird like that. Torn between needing to attract attention and needing to express something authentic and honest. And most of the time, those two things do not connect. I think if we learned anything from social media and social media influencers, is that attention is vapid. Like, Mr. Beast is great at getting attention, but he will never contribute anything meaningful to the world. His work is hollow. And that sucks, because that is the world we live in right now. The culture we live in is so hollow. Even the people trying to do meaningful reporting, they're trapped in the attention machine. And so you then end up with sensationalism. You end up with drama where there was none. You end up in a world that seems so scary and terrifying because it gets attention. And I don't know how to escape that. As an artist who needs to eat, I need attention. But I'm allergic to begging for it. I'm allergic to shaping my work for the algorithm. I just can't do it. I can't do it. I hesitate to say that I would rather no career at all, but it's where my mind leads me. Because if I'm out there begging for attention, and if I'm changing the work that I make for attention, then it's not me. I have to kill myself to do that. And I'd rather not. I think there's value in what I want to say. So the idea of changing it to what I have to say doesn't appeal. And it's kind of a line I'll draw in the sand. Anyways, I've gone back into the I've gone back into the dark place again. My apologies. If it helps lift the mood, I will tell you that my cats are adorable. They are just learning how to leave the bedroom. They are exploring their cat tree. They're playing around. One of them has one eye. One of them lost an eye to an infection, which is adorable to look at, because they are the more aggressive and playful and excited one. They're the curious one. And then our only two-eyed cat is more reserved and conservative and shy. They're a sweet little pair, and I'm sure I will feature them in a video someday soon. But for now, it's time for me to curl up into a ball and just wait out the storm.